Thank you. I'm here today to talk to you about the transformative power of taking responsibility. Henry Ford once said, whether you say you can or you cannot, in both cases, you are correct. When I was 21, my life was awesome. And 2 years later, I almost committed suicide. At 21, I was diagnosed with cluster headache. Now, most of you will say, oh, headache, I get that sometime. Just take some painkillers, dude. Well, cluster headache is a whole different ballgame. Let me try and paint a picture. On the pain scale, ranging from 0 to 10, 10 being the most painful, cluster headache is rated at 10. For a point of reference, giving childbirth without anesthesia is rated at 8. Cluster headache is literally one of the most painful conditions known to mankind. And up until today, there is no cure. Now, what happens is the nerves running through the throat and the neck, they get squashed together, resulting in an extreme pain, which is felt in the jaw, behind the eye, and the temple. Now, these clusters, they come in attacks, and attacks usually have set times at which they occur. But they can come at random. And within 5 minutes, you go from this to that. Now just imagine what it must be like when you have your first attack. I literally thought that I was about to die. And as I just demonstrated, your natural reaction is you want to move. You want to walk or bang your head against the wall, because that is the only thing that takes some focus away of the intense pain that you are feeling. And for countless nights, I have sat in a freezing cold room in just my boxer shorts, sweat running down my back, screaming, crying, fighting, passing out, and begging, please make it stop. And I even had to inform our neighbors of my condition to prevent them from reporting alleged abuse, as I would wake them with agonizing screams. Now, these attacks, they usually come at night, and they last between 30 minutes to 3 hours each. Multiple attacks are the norm, resulting in sleep and restless nights without time for recovery. And the pain is so intense that even morphine cannot subdue it. Sorry. But that's not all. As the impact of an attack is so big, it can lead to anxiety for the next attack. And in some rare cases, even cause post-traumatic stress syndrome. And as these attacks can come at random, you carry that anxiety with you 24/7. And that's what we have to endure. Our friends, family, loved ones, they have to helplessly stand by and watch us go through agonizing pain over and over again. And the impact on a family can be so big that a cluster head will try to downplay what they go through to soothe their family. But in doing so, makes having cluster headache even more lonely than it already is. Having cluster headache feels like you're swimming out in open water all alone when fatigue starts to kick in. It is a living hell. And that's why it's also referred to as suicide headache. I quickly learned that the medication available to us is not designed for cluster headache at all. As we are just a small group of patients, we are at the back of the line when it comes to research and development of treatment. But the medication that is available can take away certain symptoms, and in doing so, break down an attack. These medications, they come in different forms. On one side you have acute blood thinning or pure oxygen, both used for when the attack is already there. And on the other side you have preventive medication in the form of blood pressure regulation that is supposed to keep attacks away. If these work for you, great. But if they don't, they get replaced with heavier medication. The blood thinning in itself is already such a heavy medication that you are normally only allowed 2 per 24 hours. As I had 8 attacks a day, I took 8. And I thought, that can't be very healthy for me either, especially with the side effects I was experiencing. When I took a shot, I would feel on fire on the inside. And after that, I would feel completely drunk. I could not concentrate. I was not allowed to operate any heavy machinery. And at the end of the day, I couldn't even walk straight anymore. I also noticed that every time that I did take the medication, it would break down the attack, but the attack would come back within 2 hours and be twice as severe. The only thing that seemed to have some positive effect was the preventive medication. Constantly feeling this way, I could not live a normal life anymore. I had to quit my education, my job, and my social life came to a grinding halt. All that I was left with was pain, depression, and anxiety for the next attack. 2 years in, I was totally depressed, and at that point, becoming suicidal. And so the next decade, I suffered these attacks as I desperately tried to hold on to life as I had known it before cluster headache. And as I struggled, my life became very bleak. I had a very negative outlook on myself and my future. I was in total victim mode, constantly asking, why me? And turning 35, I knew this was no longer sustainable. I was chronically fatigued and anxious, and for 90% of the time, I would only experience negativity. Because for me, cluster headache made me feel I was no longer a functioning part of society. Cancelling plans felt like failing. Struggling to find and keep work felt like failing. And when I did find and was able to keep work, it would always come at a high personal cost, resulting in it still feeling like failing. And even seeing friends and loved ones became difficult, as they had seemingly happy lives, while mine was a living hell. And at 35, I felt my back was against the wall, and I was becoming desperate. Now, I've never been a spiritual guy, but at that point, I was willing to try just about anything. And so I decided to try meditation in the hope that it would bring me some answers to my disease. Now look at that word, dis-ease, meaning something is not at ease within the body or the mind. We know pain to be an indicator. What if my pain was my body trying to tell me something? It took me a while before I started to see the benefits for meditation. But once I did, it became a game changer for me, because it turned my gaze from outward to inward. And there, it confronted me with, me. And I realized I wasn't taking very good care of myself. I smoked a pack a day, ate a lot of junk food, never exercised, and had a very negative self-image and self-talk. That all could not be beneficial to my cluster headache. And at that moment, I understood that I needed to take responsibility for my life with cluster headache, instead of holding on to life before. And so the first thing that I tried to do was become fit. And I joined the gym. And the first few times, they were rough. But I would always feel better afterwards. And I wondered, why is that? Doing some research, I found that exercise releases endorphins, happy chemicals, making you feel good. Experiencing that and understanding why that had worked set me out on a path to find more things that could help me. And in doing so, I came across a video about Navy SEAL training. Now, the Navy SEALs, when they are not at war, they start their day doing 4 things. They make their bed, they brush their teeth, they have exercise, and then they have breakfast. And they consider those 4 to be 4 wins. That got me thinking. I never saw making my bed as a win. And I understood that it was because of my negative perspective. So in order to try to change that to a positive one, I decided that I would set out small little tasks that I could easily accomplish throughout my day. And once accomplished, I would acknowledge them as a win. And in the meantime, I kept searching for other things and information that could be beneficial to me. I researched health on cluster headache and other health topics, meditation and spirituality, nutrition, exercise, and successful people, their traits and their habits. And finding all sorts of information that sounded logical to me, I tried to adapt and apply that to my life with cluster headache. And in doing so, a barrier came down. Now, no matter if I thought something could or could not work, I would always give it an extended try. Some things stuck, some things didn't, but I learned from each and every one. And stacking those small wins and building on them and applying the information that I found, slowly but steadily started to shift my perspective to a positive one. And that gave me the courage to take the next step. The next step came when I learned about bisons. Now, bisons are the only land animal we know that will walk directly toward a storm. And that is because the bison instinctively knows that by walking toward the storm and through it, it will be out of the storm the quickest. I try to adapt that mentality to my cluster headache. Now, if I would get an attack, I would no longer hide or fight or run away from it. No, I would face it head on, like a bison. And it started to work. As my body became stronger from exercise, I was better at dealing with the pain and the broken nights. Meditation helped me to remain calmer during attacks and even alerted me to swelling or inflammation in my throat where my nerves would get crushed. By applying pressure there, I got better at cutting off the pain signal. And by bringing my awareness to the swelling, I got better and better at dissolving it. And this all started to change my cluster experience. Attacks became shorter and less painful. And after developing this technique over time, I can now say that it has brought back my cluster experience from an all-consuming, life-dictating disease to a minor inconvenience at best. Because now when I get an attack at night, I sit up, crack my neck, apply some pressure, do some breathing, and within 5 minutes, I go back to sleep. If it comes at work, it takes me maybe 15 minutes. And if I can't be dealing with it, I can keep it at bay for as long as I need. Of course, this has been a gradual process with ups and downs, and it still takes me energy to be able to do this, but it is so much better than running away and fighting against it. And where before I could barely work or keep a social life, I now see my friends quite often. And I've even started my own company alongside having a full-time job, something I never dared dream possible. And I once again truly embrace and enjoy life. So much so that I no longer see my cluster headache as a curse, but rather I'm thankful for having it, because it provides me with strength and motivation. Because if I can take a living hell and turn it into a power, I can do just about anything. And that's my message to you all. Never underestimate the transformative power of taking responsibility. And to quote one of my favorite actors, Sylvester Stallone, it is a fact that life will hit you hard, but it's not about how hard you get hit. Focusing on that will forever keep you a victim of your situation. It is about how much you can take and still get up. And let me tell you this, taking responsibility over my life, using self-development and exploration as a tool to chip away at my problems, has been one of the most liberating decisions that I have ever made in my entire life. And I can guarantee you that if you do the same, the results will amaze you. Like Henry Ford said, whether you say you can or you cannot, in both cases, you are correct. So honor yourself and change your will.